It's not an aircraft, it's shiny on the outside. It's just vanished.
That it was almost a mid-earth collision with an object that we know as a UFO.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 miles. There's a thing. It's rotating.
Well, I tell you, they flew like erratically, like a saucer would if you skipped it across the water.
Here we've seen something, I've seen something, hundreds of pilots have seen something. We have to have 15 million witnesses before anybody's going to look into the problem. Seriously?
Hi everyone, today we have the pleasure of interviewing French researcher Michael Vaillant. Just a few words to introduce our guest. Michael Vaillant has been working for 15 years for GEIPAN, a unit of the French Space Agency whose aims is to investigate UFO UAPs and to share their findings with the public. Michael was also hired by the Space Agency as a consultant in data analysis, methodology of investigation, and analysis of cases. To quote his own word in LinkedIn, the main difficulty of UAP is to objectively qualify and quantify the information collected and reduce the noise in information collected, which makes a lot of sense. He was the designer and developer of the new database for GEIPAN, which, by the way, was also the first government agency in the world to launch an official website about UFO UAPs. Published in 2007, the website had a huge success and was overwhelmed by hundreds of thousands of connections all over the world. France has always been far ahead of any other countries in Europe about the topic, this must be said. For example, just think of the Cometa report. Last but not least, Michael Vaillant is the president and founder of UAP CHECK, an international project aimed at raising public awareness about unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP, fostering interest, and promoting global collaboration. Their goal is to improve outreach efforts, reduce stigma, and provide reliable information about UAPs. This being said, let me welcome our guest. Hi, Michael. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well. You said all. I have nothing to say now. Thank you very much, Walter.
You're welcome. I hope I didn't make any mistakes.
No, it's perfect for me. You got a very good resume.
Thank you very much.
So, do you have any questions?
Yes, I know that also you have a very busy schedule these days, so I'll jump directly to the question. First of all, what is UAP CHECK and what are its core values and goals?
So, as you said, UAP CHECK is an international initiative which try to raising awareness on the global collaboration, providing reliable information about UAP. At first, I started UAP CHECK 1 year ago with the objective to put online the work I did for the French GEIPAN, like your resume. And the main point there was to share an analytical tool which can help people to review their observation of a UAP, and evaluate it. So it at first it was a software, the idea to put a software online to help people to understand what they saw. And then, after a while, maybe 1 or 2 months, I start to think about the idea to share other information, pedagogic information, on the news information concerning UAP. Because, the problem is that it is very hard to find good information today. You have many fake news and somewhat not very reliable media on the news. So how to help people to gather and to understand what it occurs today? It was the second objective of UAP CHECK. And then a third objective after all was to try to connect all the goodwill on people who want to work on the subject, and particularly the organization, the existing organization, because you know that it is very hard to work with other people on that subject, because everybody has his own belief, or if even it is not belief, it is his own approach on the vision concerning the development of the activity regarding UAP for association or for organization, even for the government, are very different. And everyone try to, in a way, making again sometimes things which have already been done in the past. And I want to avoid that, to help people to work together and to have more leverage by connecting the organization at the international level.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's a great initiative and it's a great idea. And especially in Europe, there we have seen the public and also the institution really need to catch up with what's going on, because it's like we still are pretty unaware of the situation. The media don't really cover it, and it's just up to already existing organization to try to connect. And also something that I've been seeing, and I guess you too, you can confirm or not, that also many existing organizations didn't really communicate between themselves in the past.
Exactly.
It was more like everyone doing their own business and watching their own garden, but not really trying to work together.
I confirm, absolutely. I think that at the European level, the language is a barrier also. So for many people, it's very hard to understand what it occurs in Italian, for example. For example, or even in English, because some people do not speak English. And so I am very glad to help to do this effort also through UAP CHECK to translate all the documents we have, and we will buy in English, but not only in English, in Spanish and in Italian and in German, maybe tomorrow. So we are trying to extend our network of collaborators. And of course, I am very happy to work, for example, with you, because
likewise.
we are not, for me, there to by border between organizations, but we are there to by bridge and to give this information to the other organization, for in return to help them to translate or to use it at their own level. And of course, this is the same problem with the scientists, because at the science level, we can think also there is a kind of stigma concerning UAP. I think it's more because of ignorance, and because even scientists do not know really what covers the subject. And in fact, you have some scientists interested in the subject, but they are disconnected. And they are working in different units or laboratories. And we can help them to show them through, for example, the work done in France through the GEIPAN, that it is possible to work on that subject at a science level with serious information on the methodology either. And the point of UAP CHECK precisely is to share these tools and this methodology to help the other to buy on. And also to be precise, we don't want to impose our way of working. We want to share it, to give the opportunity to discuss it,
of course,
on this method. Not just we are not just there to say we have to work like this way.
sure.
It's just an opportunity to have something to discuss about and to extend or to adapt to other organizations.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And it's going to make a difference, in my opinion, because it is true, like you said, that especially scientists, there are many of them who are interested. Also, we decided to create UP Education since most of us, have worked as teacher for many years in university in the education world. And we realized that there are many colleagues that somehow are, interested in somehow, they are, they got some ideas also, but they still think that it's just fake, it's just nonsense, because they don't have access to the right information. When they finally do, they actually get a new perspective almost immediately. So it is very important to help those, especially scientists. They go to on TV very often. We all see them, and they just don't know. They see there's no evidence, but it is not true. There's a lot of data that can be, of course, probably not hard data like they would love to, but direct evidence. But there's a lot of data that organization like GEIPAN collected during the years.
Yes, and the problem is to let the scientists know that this data exists.
Yeah, exactly.
First, and second, for the GEIPAN, like the other organization, to convince them that this data could be reliable or usable, or in a way to explain then how this data is collected and assessed, because the point is there also for a scientist. The data is very important, and if they think that the data is not reliable or not usable, they will do not do anything. And the point is that it's a kind of wall which exists since a very long time, the problem of the data. And also through this initiative, we are trying to connect with the other organization to share the data which exists between us, at least, and after with the scientist. But explaining to them what on how these data are verified and checked. And so it's why the UAP check, the origin of the name.
I always thought about that. Why that name? Okay, that's very good. And talking about data and also talking about, I know you're working on a database for UAP check. Can you tell us something about it?
Yes, of course. In fact, it's not only a database, it's a software. It's an innovative approach to analyze UAP reports, because you have a form, of course, to aid observer to report what they have witnessed, but this tool is not just for reporting observation, but also it's a first step in an analytical process, a global process. And you have the software connected to this form, which will help to analyze all the environment of the surrounding the witness at the time of the observation. It systematically prioritize hypothesis by checking the presence of identifiable objects like plane, satellite, stars, balloon, etc. And through this process, the software also is doing a quantitative analysis. So it employs mathematical value to assess the observation. It includes metrics like the level of strangeness and the robustness level.
Okay.
It's not completely new. You know, you have had in the past different organizations which use these metrics also. But in this case, the strangeness level, for example, is measured through the value of the hypothesis. Each hypothesis in the environment is analyzed and has a value, precise value. And so this project will be, I hope, on the release at the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We are trying to
that's great news.
In fact, work on it is the most difficult on the UX, the interface about the software.
Yes.
Because this software at first was developed for an internal usage, and now we are trying to outreach the public, and so of course, it must be very simple, in fact.
Of course.
And
you need to think of the user interface and experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
It will be part of the success. And another point also, and it is very important for me, is that this software should be used by other organizations on their own website. They will have a plugin. They will put this plugin just with a short tag on their web page, and they will be able to make the form appears on their web page, and also the table with the results, and they will have access to the database of their own user. So it's a way of sharing also the observation on our experience. Of course, doing so, we will be very pleased to share experience on the return of experience, on how it could be after improve to of course adapt the result to the needs of each organization.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great project. Very complicated, very complex, but
yes, of course
it could be really. So I understand why you are actually working so hard to get it out, and it's not easy to say when it will be out exactly. But I think it could be really useful and interesting, and somehow something new, because you said something similar existed in the past, but I think this new dimension of making it available for the public, and it's like a new thing, I guess.
I guess also, and because the point that a software can check all the objects in the environment. If you try to do that with a human, it will be very long. It's a painful process for a human or an investigator. It's why for most of the association today, the cases are not investigated.
Of course,
it's a barrier.
They abandon them. Yes.
Yeah, they abandon. So they have a lot of reports of witnesses, but the witnesses has no answer in general.
Of course. They want to answer, actually. That's why they report.
Like everybody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and what about, like, talking about answer, I know it's a very tough question, a very difficult question, but since you are you are a UAP researcher, you have been a UAP researcher for more than 15 years. You work with GEIPAN, and you actually studied a lot of cases. You investigate them. So have you come to some conclusion? I don't want to use the word conclusion, but some idea, for example, of some explanation of what these phenomenon, or at least some aspect of it, may be and may represent?
In fact, it is very complicated to obtain.
If not impossible.
Yes, almost impossible to have a hard conclusion on this phenomena, because, of course, by essence, it's not only one phenomenon or one hypothesis which can explain the phenomena, but many hypotheses, many you have behind the phenomena, many solutions probably.
Yeah.
You know, when I worked for the GEIPAN, I did a table with all the possibility to explain an observation. And in this table, you have 200 different phenomena.
Okay.
Not all are used, but a lot of them are used. I think during my 15 years at the GEIPAN, I think we use almost 100 different phenomena. At the end, when you put on the side all the explained phenomena, you have what it is not explained today.
Yeah.
So about, for example, for the GEIPAN, about 3.5%.
Yeah, that's what I was referring. I wasn't actually expressing very well. I was
this short.
Yeah. The small amount of anomalous
UAP phenomena, but even in this phenomena, you probably are very different answers. It's my point.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe, probably also explain phenomena we did not explain on the far now, but tomorrow it will be explained by perhaps a simple solution. I don't know, maybe a plasma. A plasma, it's not really simple, but
simple.
it could be very, very difficult. But of course, my point is what can I do with all these unexplained phenomena? And I work on the sideline of the GEIPAN with researchers on that phenomena. Why? Because, you know, the GEIPAN, like many organizations, like the Euro or like probably the NASA tomorrow, will do only investigation. And after the investigation, when you have cleaned your data and when you have a good database, you have to ask the question to the scientist about the remaining phenomena. And the question is here: who are the scientists today who are working on this unexplained phenomena? Like said the American 1 or 2 years ago, how to understand finally the aim, how we can understand the aim of the patterns which are under this data, in this data. And can we prove something, that something like an intelligence, for example, is behind this unexplained UAP? And it was my question, in fact. And to do that, I work on mathematical analysis on big data. So I use all the existing data at this time of the GEIPAN, but also I use another database from Larry Hatch, which is an American, which now is died, which is interested also because, you know, the GEIPAN database concern only the French space.
Yeah, the French space.
So you do not have a good
international
a good synthesis of what occurs at the scale of the world, in fact. So, but the GEIPAN database is very interested to analyze what we call spatial spatial scattering of the points, or because when someone in France want to witness,
Yes.
Anybody on the territory, on the French territory, can do a report, and this report will be analyzed by the GEIPAN. Whatever the place the people is. So it's very interesting because it is a collection of observer homogeneous in space. And it's not the case in the other place of the world. It's, because when you have an association, it's it depends of the money they have, and they need to go to do an investigation at 500 kilometers. It could be hard for an association. It's not the case for the GEIPAN.
I see.
You have not this spatial
I see. I understand that. Yeah, and I think that, well, also we are a bit depending on which country may be the first to publish some results, some good observations, you know. So I don't think, of course, we need to do it. It would be ideal to study on an international level, but I think also the work that each country is doing is very valuable, because the phenomenon itself probably is not. I mean, the small amount of anomalous cases is not probably tied to any territory, so it doesn't really change behavior following if it's in France or in Italy. So there are probably common characteristics that can be identified in each.
Exactly. So the phenomena have no barrier or no borders.
That's a good thing about it.
Absolutely. And the point is that in France, we study only French cases. So
yes, of course.
Because of course it was with the tax of French people. So
of course you cannot take any other cases. Okay, but I think. Sorry.
Yeah. No. You know, it's why also I use the data of Larry H. Larry H. Was living in California.
Okay.
And he did a huge database using the references from books on the press, etc. With almost 17,000 cases. So it's huge. And since the beginning
of the phenomenon
of the century, of the 19th century, but his database really start after 1947, 1945 exactly, and until 2000. And after, he was working on old system like PC with DOS at the operating system of Bill Gates.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes,
and he never upgrade his database for newer system. And and also I think he was very old when I discovered his database, and I work on it for the chronological analysis. You know, I did two kinds of analysis. One on the space, on the territory, how the phenomena are displayed in France using the GEIPAN database, and are they following patterns, for example?
Yeah, that's also what I wanted to ask.
It was the point. And the same question in the time, in chronological analysis. Does the phenomena follow patterns since we collect them? And I find patterns, in fact, in space on time. And, and then what these patterns could say to us, what it emerged from these patterns. Concerning the analysis in space on the territory,
Yes.
for me, it's a strong connection with the ecology. And you know, not only we know the question of the nuclear, you have more
close nuke.
Exactly, close nukes, close nuclear power plants, etc. And you have many observations, but it was very difficult to measure mathematically, because when you try to output how the UAP phenomena are displayed on a map, you will only see the population density, in fact, because you will have more phenomena where you have more people, more observer, in fact.
Okay.
It's a direct correlation. So you cannot analyze anything if you do not subtract, in a way, the density of population from the data. So it was the first work. And then you have another question, like, what about people in the south, for example, of France, where the sun is shining and you have less clouds and less rain, and so people are living outside.
Or outside.
Often. Maybe you have a correlation with the data, because when you are outside, you have the opportunity to observe something, of course.
Of course.
And the point is that we create a model with many variables, like the lightning, so of course, if you have in a place where you have more light, less clouds, you have the opportunity maybe to observe. With also the airport, because for people living near airports, it could be an explanation because of the light of the human activity. Perhaps the investigator did not do a great job. We cannot know for sure, of course.
Of course.
But it's possible that you have some misinterpretation in the data still. And also, we add in the data what we call in France the A cases. The A cases, it is a definition of explained case. We put in the data the explained case. Why we do that? To see if you have a correlation between the unexplained and the case. It is very important because, for example, you may have more observation near nuclear facilities, but is it because people near nuclear facility are, for example, very concerned,
worried,
and worried because of the activity, and so they are looking often or maybe thinking often about the ID, and so you may have also conspiracy in some places, with people more aware of phenomena, and so. If it is the case, in fact, you can imagine that these people will, of course, not of course, but will
likely
do a report, and this report will be investigated. And after investigation, if the job is correct, the investigator should understand what it occurs. So, for example, that the witness is sensitive to some information and it was a psychological trick or a normal phenomena like a light, and
of course.
that the observer misinterpret. And so
Of course.
you should have more A case, explain case, and D case in these places with more reports in
Absolutely.
a way. But it is not the case, in fact. You have no correlation at all between the explained and unexplained. So it was very interesting because we are able to put on the side the idea that people which report decays have a psychological problem, for example.
Yeah.
It's probably, certainly, an external cause, and not due to the personal aim or will to testify.
Mm-hmm.
And after we put also other environmental layers in the model, like the forest, like the water area, and we put also the chemical or polluted zone.
I see.
Why? Because in fact, when I start to work on that subject 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I asked to myself the question about, imagine you are the man of the future.
Yeah.
What will interest you at first?
Of course.
Of course, it is to survive and to survive to define the condition of survival on how the environment could affect our chance to survive. When you project yourself at a scale of time like 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, etc. So, of course, the scale of times are not for the everyday, for everybody, but for a civilization which is interested in his own survival. It could be very interesting to have this variable. And so I put what I call that the environmental risk in the model. So the long-term environmental risk, not only the nuclear risk.
Of course, but any risk.
NBC, nuclear, bacterial, and chemical. So for the chemical one, it's quite obvious. You may have on the biological organism or live beings some modification on the long term.
Of course.
And you have, for example, and it's only an hypothesis for me, but on the Belgium area, on the north of France,
yes,
you have had in the past a wave of observation.
Big wave, the Belgian wave, yes.
The Belgian wave, you know it. Yeah. So it was not only the Belgium area, it was also the north of France.
Okay.
And you know what it is in common in this area?
No.
It is the two World War I, World War II, with many tons of bombs, which were put in the ground.
Yeah, I see.
And they are liberating their chemical products after dozens of years, and after 50 years and 100 years of activity in the ground. In fact, what it is affected, it is the the ground network of water, and all the water in the north of France and Belgium is on the same network of river.
I see.
And this river takes their source in the France, in the region we call the red. You have a term. It's not the red line. It's a zone where.
How do you say? How do you call it in French?
La zone rouge. The zone,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
You know, it's a like red zone.
Line. Yes. Red zone.
But where we avoid to do crops because it is not
usable.
healthy. So
that's very interesting.
And so the water is not healthy in this area also.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they have many problems. And you know what? I observed that, for example, UAP went in the same little river in the north of France with 40 years of distance and at almost 1 kilometer or 2. And what it is interesting is when the phenomena not only come in the environment, but
of course
interact with the environment and stop above the environment. So the question is, what is the relationship between the environment and the phenomenon in this case? You have in the Belgium wave many cases of interaction with water, in fact.
Wow.
So it's why I put the water in the model. And
that's actually very important. Is now we know that it's a very important aspect of any UAP, most UAP sightings.
Yeah, and the result is in fact 3 p-value or mathematical, let's say, correlation between layers on the UAP, on the positive correlation. And you have one positive correlation, very good correlation, of course, with the density of population. But we put this one apart because we know it's normal. Then you have the nuclear correlation. So I think in 2012, I measured this for the French area.
Yes.
And for the first time, because
I think
I don't have in mind any other measure of this kind.
Me neither. Actually, also worldwide, I'm not aware, at least.
Yes, at least the SCU is doing a job, not with the same mathematical tools, but they are trying also to identify the hotspot because at least finally it conducts to this result. And so you have a correlationship also with the chemical zone, so it works very well also.
Okay.
Chemical polluted site, excuse me, exactly.
Yeah.
And also a little bit with the water area. It's a light correlation. The statistical significance is light. It's not very hard, but it's quite good.
Okay.
So you have these 3 variables in a model. And so with these 3 variables, you can project them on a map and redo the distribution of UAP in France. So it's very interesting. But when you do that, you have a theoretical distribution model with slight differences with the real distribution. And this slight difference were quite intriguing for me because they were only on places in France. And I understand some years after that, in fact, it is connected to to the chronological analysis. And why? Because you have also patterns in the time, but these patterns are not easy to discern, because on everybody interested in this subject know well the wave, the pattern of waves.
Of course.
Okay, of course. During 1 week, approximately, you have many observations in a vast area of a continent. It could be a zone in Europe or the North America, etc. And it starts before, and it's continue after for a while, for 2 weeks, on 1 week before, but the main wave lasts 1 week. Okay. And you have many patterns of waves, many repetition of waves. Yes. Between 1945 and 2000 on the data I use with Lariach data. And my question was, okay, but why this pattern? And at first, and I think I redo the same thing like all researcher, because it was a pattern which was found by Jacques Vallée a very long time ago. The single pattern of a wave, and but nobody was able to say anything about this. It was just colleague of Jacques Vallée said it could be a learning process. I remember that. You remember that? And Jacques Vallée developed the idea of a theory of control. That maybe the UAP phenomena control this pattern, in fact. But in fact, I observe, maybe by chance, but not completely, because I was trying to connect these different waves in the time with the activity of the sun. Alors, why the sun? It's a long question, because it's also an environmental connection.
Yes, of course.
And the sun has a great influence on the Earth. And so, for example, an influence on our emotion. And the suicide level, for example, is connected to the sun activity.
Yeah.
So this long pattern of activity of the sun, you have, you know that very well, every 11 years, approximately, a stronger activity, which is measured with sunspot. But you have also another waves of activity in the sun, which are less known. This activity are in the power of 2. So you have an activity every 5 years and a half, approximately, and also every 22 years. Okay. And also every 44 years, approximately. Each wave, if each pattern for the sun has a name of a searcher, because they were discovered at different time. And so I was trying to connect this pattern with our UAP waves, but without success. Just I observed that, okay, you have between 2 waves the same duration than the duration between 2 activities of the sun. Mm-hmm. And then I don't remember how, but at one point, I remember that you have software connected to. It's why, because Why? Because I was working on the power of two of the sun.
Okay.
I, I guess that you have software which are used to help you to memorize an information. And they are used this property of a power of two. A power of two, to be very simple,
Yes.
it's a multiplication by two of the previous result. So you start at 1, for example, and then 2, 4, 8, etc. You double your result at each time.
Yeah.
And in fact, in this case, the power of 2 appears between some waves.
Okay.
You have one couple of waves which are the first occurrence, and then you use this duration of time between the two waves, and if you double this time, you obtain a third one, and if you double this time, you obtain a fourth one.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Very interesting. And between the first two, if you get half of the period, you have also a wave, just at the middle. And the correlation between the top of these waves through an equation was extremely precise. So it was very interesting, because with that you can predict the next one. And in the software used to memorize, you know that when you repeat 5 times a memorization, at the end you stabilize your knowledge for almost one life. So you repeat at first at D0, then at D +1, +2, +4, +8, and it's okay. Normally, if you do your job correctly, you will remember that for a long time, almost your life. And it depends also about the level of abstraction of the data. So you have parameters in this software. They help you to find the good time between the repetition, because the distance between the first 2 repetitions is not always one day. It could be less, it could be more, depending on the nature of the data. And also, it depends on the speed at which the information go through the network. So your brain, if you are alone, but you may be a group, and if you are a group on working to buy cars, for example, the information will go through this group, but slower. And if you upscale again at the scale of a country, it will be again slower, and again slower at the scale of the world. So
okay, that's super fascinating.
It's fascinating, because yes, it's like we are observing a learning process at the scale of the world, and you have the wave, just space between them through generation of people. And so the fifth one, and it's why I'm doing a joke with that, will be in 2035.
Okay, so that's great.
My joke is about
we need
what
to be
will
around
occur in almost 10 years from now.
Okay.
What we will see, what are we learning, in fact? What is the question is about what we are learning through this observation. And for me, it's the learning of a process, a symbolic process of appropriation, acculturation of the other, of the existence of other beings.
Of course.
So of the extraterritorium, in a way.
Okay.
And why this learning process, in fact? because, you know, you have studies on that subject of acculturation through scientists, which try to understand what could be the result of two cultures very different put together if they are not prepared to, for example, with a very advanced culture and a lower culture. So the lower culture will be destroyed completely by the advanced culture, not because of the will of the advanced culture, because the lower culture will not have the symbolic tools to represent the other or to imagine how they can interact with the other. And they probably want, if you are imagine a tribe on the earth, a small tribe, we make disappear small tribes because they want to buy our basket, Nike basket, or television, etc., etc. And they forgot completely their culture. The question finally is about the culture, because my point is that what we can offer to other civilization tomorrow if we have a contact, because it is a question of the contact, and certainly not our science, probably. And the science, you know, it's something rather universal. The gravity is the same in every place of the universe, at least the place we can observe. But for the light, the properties appears to be the same, etc. So if the physics is the same, can we expect, should we expect something to exchange about the physics or about the technology? I don't think so. The technology is a danger for us, first. In the case, for example, we discussed just here, it's about when you give technology to a culture, you may disrupt or destruct this culture. So it probably not be an exchange of technology through a contact tomorrow, but probably more about an exchange of our vision, our culture, how we observe our environment, local environment at least, on how we represent the universe. Because for me, the culture is like a flower which grows up in a place, in a garden, and this flower to grow up need a specific environment. If you put this flower in a desert, it won't grow up, it will die. So we are unique in the universe. And what we can offer for me is this unique view, and through our view of the universe, or symbol, or way of expressing, of building houses, making food, etc. And this, all this way of expressing ourselves has only a sense through our place. Of course, you can do a couscous in the North Pole. There is no problem. But this recipe will not have the taste, or not the taste, the sense it has in the place where it is born.
Of course. Well, that's very interesting. That's I think we should make another appointment in the future, another interview to speak about that, because it's really fascinating. And also I think at first place, like for example, your project is, I guess, one of the first one that is trying to combine aspects that are also sociological, psychological, and cultural, which is very important because it seems that they really matter in the equation. And also this, I'm yeah, I want to know more about this learning process that you said. I'm now my brain is just like exploding. So I really have a lot of questions, and I think we should really make
With
another
pleasure.
talk about that.
Of course, I don't speak about the spatial analysis where on the map when you subtract
I know.
the
And
nuclear
I saw your
point,
presentation.
you have some information.
Yes.
Very interesting to connect, of course, with. But with pleasure, I will be.
Yeah, I think we should really schedule more appointment if you want, because your the presentation you did at the Eco Congress in Paris was really inspiring for me, really eye-opening, because there was data that I had never seen before presented in a way that I had never seen before, and I think that also more people would like to see it and get an insight of it. So
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the best, of course, for UAP CHECK and for all the investigation and studies you are doing.
And see you soon, I hope, with
absolutely.
all this form online and this great news coming, I think.
Perfect. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Walter.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.